Hey there, guys. Welcome back to yet another edition of PBS Live. I'm your host, Mark Puckett, and we are fifth episode of PBS Live. I keep thinking that it's always like one more than it actually is for some reason. So on the thumbnail, I actually put PBS Live number 6, and it was actually number 5. I don't know why I'm trying to get more episodes in than what I really have, but that's been the case so far. So anyway, I've got lots of cool stuff for us to talk about tonight, and I also want to remind everyone that this is in fact a live show, so the more of you that actually hop on over to the YouTube chat page and chit chat with us, the more you interact, the more fun that I end up having. And so head on over there to the YouTube watch page, jump in the chat room, participate with both me and your fellow photographers, and we'll talk about all things photography. And man, I got some stuff for you all tonight. The main topic of conversation this evening is going to be, should you go to photography school? I think that a lot of people have been asking that here lately, and I really have some very strong opinions on the whole topic, so we're going to get to that just a bit later. And I've also got a few news stories that I wanted to tell you all about, as far as, I won't spoil it. And I also wanted to talk yet again, and I know this is getting to be a bit repetitive, but it is of something that I find extremely interesting, which is the Sony RX100 IV DP review. Just recently released their full review and their score. And believe it or not, I also wanted to talk about the fact that Nikon recently just produced its 95 millionth interchangeable Nikkor lens. And again, I will talk about that here in just a little bit. So first of all, what's been up with me and what's been going on around here? I have been kind of prepping you all for the fact that I do plan on moving here pretty soon. All contracts are signed. All of the appraisals have been ordered. And so now we're just kind of waiting on everything to be finalized with that so we can move forward, proceed onward, and get that ball rolling. And basically, the move itself is not going to be overly horrible. I just hate moving so bad. I would really rather just pay one of you all $20, come over here, take me out in the alley, and kick my ass. That's how bad I hate moving. And as far as everything else has been going on around here, I have been trying my best to get the video series about Film Convert out, and I worked on part 2 and part 3 today quite extensively. I will most likely be releasing part 2 of that video tomorrow, and probably part 3 of that on Friday. Usually I release a vlog on Friday. That's kind of been my thing here for the last couple of weeks, but I'm not going to be doing that this week at least. If I get a wild hair up my hind end and I decide to release another vlog video, I might. Depends on how motivated I get. And I also wanted to briefly touch on negativity within our community overall. I recently got into it ever so slightly earlier today with another YouTuber, and generally for whatever reason, it just seems like mirrorless camera bashing seems to be the new thing, I guess. I'm not really for sure why exactly everyone wants to, I don't know, poo-poo on the mirrorless market, but that seems to be a running theme here lately. I hope none of you guys are in that camp, because I would be sorely disappointed. But I kind of got into it earlier over that, and realistically, I probably shouldn't have. And I say that mainly because generally when you someone that's very outwardly vocal about other people or whatever, you end up making yourself look bad. It never really ends up all that good for you personally. But I think something just snapped in me. I mean, I literally just lost it on this guy. And I just kind of let him have it. And I just want everyone to know right here now, I do not, nor does any other photographer I know, none of us talk about Sony because we're getting paid. As far as I am aware, and most of the people that I associate with on YouTube, as far as other YouTubers, other gear reviewers, and other content creators, nobody is getting paid by Sony in any way, shape, or form. I bought all my Sony glass. I bought my Sony cameras. Everyone else that I know of, including Jason Lanier and Eric Rossi, anyone that you have ever watched here within, say, like the last 6 to 7 months, that has been touting the amazing things that Sony's been doing, it's quite literally because we like mirrorless cameras. And I know that there's other manufacturers out there, but I mean, I'm a Sony user now, so I tend to gravitate toward other Sony users. And I'm almost positive that's why most of you all now watch me, because I am a Sony user. So when you see me things about photography, the particular camera, 9 times out of 10, or almost now 10 times out of 10, Sony. So it just makes it easier for you guys to relate to whatever I'm talking about. But as far as yet to, and I say yet because I do, it might happen. I'm just going to assume that everything is just fine at this point, so I'm not sure where I got cut off or what happened. I'm just going to move right on and act like everything's all good. So, at any rate, let me go ahead and get right on into the stuff that I had pulled up for you guys as far as news is concerned, and I'm going to start off with this. I don't know what it is here lately. A lot of people are getting the shit kicked out of them when they're taking selfies with wild animals. This guy was bitten while taking a selfie with a rattlesnake and then ends up having to go to the hospital and ends up with a $153,000 hospital bill. And maybe you've seen this or maybe you haven't, but I'm going to read this real quick just so you all can get a general idea. I mean, that was the headline. The headline pretty much said it all. I don't know who the hell is taking selfies with crazy-ass wild animals, but someone clearly... People are still getting the message. People still aren't getting the message that taking selfies with wild animals can be a very bad idea. Yet another tourist was flipped by a bison in Yellowstone last week while shooting a selfie, but that pales in comparison to what happened to a San Diego man earlier this month. The guy tried to take a selfie with a rattlesnake, got bitten, and racked up a $153,000 hospital bill treatment. Okay, now I can see taking selfies with a lot of things, but a rattlesnake doesn't happen to be one of them. And that article that they were referencing, they were talking about this. A woman was basically flipped into the air via the horns after a selfie with a bison. It was a 43-year-old woman from Mississippi. She decided to stop about 6 yards away from a bison to pose for a selfie with her daughter. The bison then charged the woman. I mean, is she nuts? I mean, 6 yards, you've got to realize bison aren't small. I mean, these are massive, massive creatures. And they're not all that fond of us. But the bison then charged the woman into the air with its head. The woman's husband then covered her with his body to protect her as the bison retreated. And the family was able to escape safely with only minor injuries to the flipped woman. And then, as if this even needed to be said, park officials go, wildlife should not be approached regardless of how tame or calm they appear. Can you believe that? I mean, that should not even have to be said. But I'm telling you, social Darwinism would work. It really would. We could have eliminated a lot of dumb people out there if we would just let nature run its course. Some people might find that offensive, but it's the truth. Think of how much better as an overall we would be if we could eliminate the genes that just absolutely, positively, clearly do not want to survive. Now, if I was at the zoo, maybe, perhaps, I would go ahead and give that a shot. But at the zoo, they're like separated by a gate or a fence or a bridge, a glass enclosure. I have a relative sense of safety when I'm at those places. But just to like, I don't know how much they weigh. Well, I mean, what do they weigh? Like 3,000 pounds? I mean, it's just a lot of weight. And if they come charging at you, they could seriously mess up your car, let alone your life. And I think that there have been plenty of cases where they have actually charged cars and ruined them. I mean, completely ruined them and then walked away. They had absolutely no problem ruining yours. They don't give a shit. And I don't think most of those other huge wild animals do either. I saw a video here not too long ago where a stag was just beating the living dog shit out of the side of this car with its horns, and it gave zero shits. I mean, it just kept on coming too. If I can happen to find that link, I will throw it down in the description box below for you guys. All right, next up on the list is the Sony CyberShot DSC RX100 Mark IV. Small little compact camera actually received as high of a score as it did. It's not like it ever got a bad score. I think it even started off, I think the RX100, the first gen, came out with like an overall score of 80%. And in general, I happen to take the word of dpreview.com much more so than I do dxomark.com, but that's just me. I'm not saying that you should either. I just think that they seem a bit more comprehensive. I don't see a lot of overall arbitrary numbers being thrown about. Most of this is very subjective and based on one's own tastes, namely the reviewers of the cameras. And then, you know, they give you plenty of examples so that you can do a self-evaluation as to whether or not that particular camera or other camera accessory product is going to be good for you. So, but this is the kind of camera that I've been looking for a long time, and I've had my eye on the RX100 Mark whatever for quite some time, and I think I am on the cusp now that I finally got to see the full DP review. I think it's almost time. And if you just look at the actual ergonomics and the build quality and the features, and especially the movie video mode, I mean, look how high that scale is. It's like the best part, at least according to dpreview.com, it is the best part of this camera. The worst part of the camera is what they would consider the value part. Because it's expensive point and shoot. And up here in the category, you can see that they've listed this as an entry-level large sensor compact camera. And I don't know why they call it an entry-level. Pretty damn advanced. I mean, the feature set has a lot of mid-range DSLRs beat pretty badly too. But again, my opinion, don't take it as gospel. If you look down here in the assessment area, it says, what's it good for? Photographers looking for the best. See, they even say it. And yet they got entry-level, large sensor compact camera up top. Entry-level, but if you're looking for the best image quality, and video from a responsive camera that fits in a pocket. So it has the best image quality and video from a responsive camera that fits in your pocket. Consider me sold. Down here where it says not so good for, shooters on a budget. So again, we're back to value again. Or users looking for long telephoto focal lengths. Well, the zoom range on the RX100 is a 24-70. So, you know, in my opinion, that is probably the most standard, most used focal range. Covers everything from close-ups to portraits and even some slight low-end telephoto range. I mean, that's the reason most wedding photographers carry 24-70 and a 70-200, because those are the two most popular zoom lengths. And if you had someone using this particular camera as like a B camera or a backup or just a video camera, it's still, I mean, it has built-in Zeiss glass 24-70 with a 1.8 to 2.8 aperture. That's pro quality. That is not entry level. That is pro quality. So in my estimation, the value is off the charts. For $1,000, not only are you getting a 24-70, 1.8 to 2.8 lens, but you are also getting the most popular focal range in photography. So, call me crazy, call me whatever, but you cannot argue with the fact that there is a lot of power that is built into that small little camera, and it covers just about every need that most pro professional cameras or most pro wedding photography or photographers use. I mean, they always, and that is the staple. The number one thing that's in their bag is their 24-70 2.8, and then of course the 70 to 200, or yeah, 70 to 200. $646 Studio says, I think Sony states that the RX100 Mark IV is for the entry, advanced, and professional person. And I would almost, I'm not going to say almost, I would almost tend to say, I think it leans more heavily toward the advanced professional. But I do believe that on its face, on the surface, it is easy enough and simple enough that they don't overcomplicate the actual device itself. There's not a lot of function buttons. There's not a lot of programmable buttons. So anyone that's just looking for a great little point and shoot could easily and quickly just click it on and be good to go. But for anyone that had the guts to dig down just a little bit further, they would find an absolutely amazing pocket camera. So as far as pocket cameras go, this is probably going to be my buy. I'm just not for sure when I actually going to need it. I'm waiting until I actually require it before I go out and spend the money, especially considering the move and everything. So once we get that nailed down, then I can start really taking a look at my options here. But in my estimation, it's going to be very, very hard to beat this pocket camera. And I keep saying that over and over again, but I mean, it is the truth. And I think a lot of people are also looking at this camera and they're wondering, you know, if you had the RX100 Mark III, I'd say don't yet. Maybe wait till the next gen comes out, because they're probably going to increase a lot of the stats, including the 4K video recording above 5 minutes. As a matter of fact, I think they might be able to do that with a firmware update, but I just don't know that it's overly possible with the form factor. I just think that the device might get too hot. But I'm no engineer, so take my opinion with a grain of salt. And if you just can't wait for 4K, I mean, people in my kind of business, we take very short form videos, and we usually take them in bursts. So most of the stuff that I record, if I was going to record something in 4K, I probably wouldn't need over 5 minutes anyway. But that's just me. Okay, so I wanted to talk about this guy here. This, I got wind of. This is the Lumo Pro light switch. It is basically a flash case that turns into 3 different light modifiers. I just thought that was unbelievably awesome. I mean, you end up having to have bags and cases for your flashes and stuff anyway. Why not make them dual purpose? I love when stuff can be used for more than one purpose. It is the best. And usually when you pull your flash out of your flash case or whatever, you basically just have dead weight hanging around either in your bag or in your pouch or whatever, and it doesn't do anything except keep it nice and protected while in transit. But this actually makes it useful not only when you but when you get there. And it's called the LP742 light switch. It's a new protective case for flash units that transforms into a light modifier of your choice. In case form, it looks like a standard protective shell that protects your flash unit from bumps and scrapes during transport. However, unlike other flash cases, one of the seams on the light switch is actually a zipper that lets you open it up and disassemble it into 3 pieces: a front panel, a back panel, and a strap. So, now, I've got to say that as far as the zipper part, honestly, zippers fail all the time. I really wish that they had maybe figured out a way to create this thing without that zipper. Zippers are just notoriously bad on camera equipment. They run off track all the time. They easily break. They screw up. And they do it all the flipping time. So I wish they had managed to maybe make that outer seam Velcro or something. It might have had to have been just a little bit bigger, but honestly, Velcro's pretty secure. And when there's a lot of it, I seriously doubt. They could have put some extra little buckles or something on the side in order to kind of keep shit out of the way. But overall, I'm actually quite impressed with the innovation. I actually like the direction that this product is going. So this is essentially what you get here. You can use it as a scoop deflector. You can use it as a white gobo, or if you flip it around on the back side of the case, you can use it as a black gobo that won't reflect light. That's useful to me. I would use the living shit out of that. And I've got those things in my case right now. Not only do I have flash cases that end up just sitting there after the fact, but I also have Velcro and reflective gobos in my camera bag for when I need to shield the light from spilling over into other areas, or if I want to direct more light toward my subject. But this actually makes good use of the space that's always at a premium in our camera bags. We want to add those little bit of extras. We want to add a few extra things maybe to make our job easier, or maybe to squeeze in some creative shots maybe toward the end of the night or whatever. So, I mean, it is $30 for the case. But if you look at it for what you get not only a case, but a scoop, a reflective gobo, and a non-reflective gobo. I mean, that's 4 pieces of kit in one item for $30. If anyone's interested, I put links to it in the description box below, so if you want to check that out, you can. I put a link to Amazon just in case they ever decide to sell it on Amazon, but as of right now, it's only available on the official website. But I did at least want to let whenever I find stuff like this, I've actually started contemplating doing a show where I go out and I spend my time to go find some really cool photo gear deals that I can then pass on to you all. So if that happens to be something you're interested in, maybe I'll do that like as a Thursday show and just find some random deals that I think that would be cheap or inexpensive that I could then pass on to you guys and help anyone out there that actually has a need for some cheap yet effective photography gear. So if that sounds like something y'all be interested in, let me know. But yeah, as far as this product is concerned, the light switch, I mean, I think it's off the chart smart. Such a great idea. I was just reading a comment. Stony Play says, "Hey guys, new here. Just been offered a place on the master's degree in fashion photography at the London College of Fashion, so hoping this will prove insightful." Man, I don't know if or not. But I hope that it is. I genuinely do. And 646 Studio said, "This looks like the Light Genius Light Scoop 2. Yes, as a matter of fact, I'll be reviewing the Light Scoop 2 very shortly. Light Genius has sent me a couple of them. I don't have them in yet. I've not had a chance to play with them, but my friend Eric Rossi just did a review of them as well. And, you know, the product itself is pretty nice. He seemed to have a few issues with the actual company, saying that he didn't demonstrate the product correctly or whatever. So I'll see what happens. But overall, I think the product itself will be pretty useful. I just don't know. I mean, it obviously is not going to have this same amount of functionality as this thing is, but it will accomplish much the same goal as the first configuration here. With the sort of light scooped into the direction of the subject. So, last but not least on the news front, I wanted to tell you all that Nikon has produced its 95 millionth interchangeable Nikkor lens. Now, I'm an ex-Nikon shooter. I have absolutely nothing against Nikon. Nothing against Nikon at all. I'm actually quite proud of them. I mean, they have cranked out over the years. The press release says that Nikon announced today that the total production of Nikkor 1 and Nikkor lenses for interchangeable lens cameras has surpassed the 95 million mark. As the 85 millionth interchangeable Nikkor lens was manufactured in January of 2014. So that means that they have cranked out 10 million new lenses in a year and a half. Now, granted, all those lenses aren't still out there floating around, but I would say the vast majority of them probably are. Let's see what it says. Earlier this year, Nikon announced the AFS Nikkor 300mm f4 PF EDVR. The fixed focal length telephoto lens was the first Nikkor lens that adopted a PF lens element, making it the world's lightest lens in its class. And helping Nikon reach the production milestone were the two new professional super telephoto lenses, the AFS Nikkor 500mm f4 FL EDVR and the AFS Nikkor 600mm f4 FL EDVR. Also contributing to this achievement was the AFS DX Nikkor 16 to 80mm f2.8 to 4 EDVR DX format zoom. So they have produced a lot of great lenses over the years. I still, to this very day, prefer Nikon glass over, I mean, and this is when I'm pixel peeping, by the way. If I mean, if it wasn't for Sony and the whole mirrorless system in general, I'd probably still be with Nikon. And it's not that I dislike Nikon. I love Nikon's glass. What I hate overall is just the fact that when they are releasing new cameras, they don't necessarily feel like new cameras when you start comparing them with some of the amazing stuff that like Sony is cranking out, Panasonic is cranking out, Fuji is cranking out. All of these camera manufacturers are giving us amazing feature sets for not amazing money. They're not charging $3,000, $4,000 for some of these cameras. And we're actually getting more than what would be in Nikon and Canon's considered what they would consider their high-end range. We're getting 4K internal video recording. We're getting Wi-Fi and near-field communication. And we're getting all this stuff that when Nikon and Canon finally do release, you know, they make 2 or 3 minor tweaks to their gear every couple of years, mind you. And then they want you to just go rushing out and spend yet another $2,000 on this update. And you're getting like 2 things, and it's like, here's some GPS, or I don't know, just something that you're not going to use very often or probably don't even give a shit about, and they want to charge you a premium for that feature. When you have companies like Sony and Fuji, Panasonic, Samsung, they're releasing all these cameras, the NX500, the Panasonic G7 and the GH4, the Sony a6000 and the Sony a7S. These are amazing cameras. Amazing cameras. And they are all way less, with maybe the exception of the Sony a7S. But I mean, it is a contender in its own right. But you've got to look at the fact that you're getting just a massive amount of camera from these smaller manufacturers than you're getting from Nikon or Canon right now. Yes, the build quality is better. I'll grant you that. I'll never lie to you about that. Magnesium alloy bodies, beautiful grippy grips, all everywhere. You could literally take this to the Arctic and be totally fine using it. Okay? I'll grant you all of those things. But I just want to know how many of you are going to the Arctic with these cameras. If you're using them in America, if you're using them in Great Britain or in Norway or Switzerland or wherever, you know, we're literally talking about standard operating conditions. Don't pay extra for weather sealing. I'm going to pay extra for features. And I do believe that that is what these other camera manufacturers are giving us. Instead of just making these things built like tanks because they know that we're going to not like it anymore in a year or two, they're throwing it out and hooking us up with a lot of features. So, Newlig says, quick question, should I go to college to study photography? Bit broad of a question, I know. I'm actually getting to that here in just a second. Digital Mode says, hi there. I just bought Sony a6000, but sellers sold me weak SDHC card and didn't tell me that after firmware update, I won't be able to shoot in XAVCS. That's true. You do, in fact, have to beef up your memory cards if you want to use the new codec. I mean, I had to do it. I'm sure that a lot of other Sony a6000 users had to do it. We had to go out and get new cards. Pardon me. Okay. So, I'm not bashing Canon or Nikon for not being good cameras, because they are. And I'll always stand by that. I'll never say anything bad about, you know, the build quality or their glass. I think that the glass on these cameras are amazing. I want to commend Nikon for producing just a shitload of that amazing glass, both cheap, usable, and fantastic. I mean, they've got a whole range of really awesome lenses out there. And they've got just about every focal length covered, unlike Sony. But Sony's working on it. And a lot of these other camera manufacturers, too. A lot of them are trying to play catch-up to Nikon and Canon as far as their lens lineup is concerned. So there's not really a whole lot we can do about that. I mean, these companies just can't crank out lenses fast enough for people. But they're doing a fairly good job. I mean, as of right now, Sony is meeting my needs, and I am waiting with bated breath to see. I think, this is a rumor, but I think that they're going to be releasing 8 new lenses between now and this time next year. 8 new lenses. And those 8 new lenses should fill in all the gaps that they currently have now. I know that a lot of people are looking for the 70 to 200 millimeter 2.8 to compete with the Nikon and Canon, but honestly, the f4, it's very small. It's very light. You're going to get a lot less fatigued. And it's not like these are doing extremely well in low light. And if that's what you need, why not just get a Sony A7S? I mean, you're out flipping standing. Okay, so I said all that to get into this. The main question of the night is, should you go to photography school? I'm going to start off by asking you all, and this is for anyone that watches this both tonight and in the future. You have to ask yourself, are you wanting to learn the art of photography, or are you wanting to start a business with photography? Because while on occasion I do believe that the two can be symbiotic at times, I think one or the other is going to determine my answer. So think about that just for a second. I take a look at some of the questions that we had here earlier. Let me just take a look real quick, because I don't want to leave anyone out. I know this is going to be a big one, so I don't want to... I don't want to leave anyone out. And I know that a lot of people are going to have questions. Let's see. Digital Mode says, okay, that was about the SD card. 646 Studios, if you could handle that and answer that question for me. If I have a chance, why don't we just do Q&A after the fact? I don't really want to muddle up the conversation about going to school, because I do think that a lot of people out there genuinely have questions about whether or not they should make the leap and actually go and get a true formal education in photography. Okay. So getting right into it. I have several things that I want to ask. I'm going to pose some pros and some cons. I'm going to maybe throw some things out there that you guys could think about, ponder over. Because going to school for anything, not just photography, is a big decision. It's a big decision because instead of being out in the world and gaining some skills and some real world knowledge, you're going to be in a classroom. You're going to be focused on nothing but your chosen field of study. You might even be going to a traditional school where you might have to mix in general education classes that have absolutely nothing to do with what you want to do. I went to college but I did not go for photography. I'll start off by saying that. I took photography classes when I was in high school. I enjoyed photography classes in high school. I also believed that it was going to be an easy, and it usually was. I had a genuine interest in photography, even as far back as like 5 years old, when I would play with my dad's Polaroid or my mom's point and shoot. And back then they had rolls of film, the disposables, everything. We had so many different types of cameras. And then I got into video when I was a little bit older than that, when my dad got one of the rigs, the big shoulder mount chest recorders. It tells you anything about how old I am. But they were fun to shoot on. Just like, all the stuff today, like I'm still interested in it. Cameras, lenses, microphones, anything involving the visual arts and creative process. I mean, it still intrigues me to this very day. I love playing around with technology. And the more they integrate technology into my love, my passion, which is photography and videography, the more I can't get enough of it. I absolutely love to do this stuff. It's a lot of fun. So, I also want to ask you all, do you all think that photography school is necessary to be successful? And I need you to really think about that, because I know a lot of very successful photographers that have had very interesting and amazing careers in photography or in art or in videography that have never attended a single formal class on the subject. I'm not saying that to scare you all or to freak anyone out that is quite literally on the verge of going to school. I just want you all to make up your own mind. Don't just do what you think is right based on what other people have told you. A lot of high school guidance counselors will I apologize, everyone. I don't know what's going on with the stream tonight. Very tricky. I really do appreciate the people that are actually participating in the live show. Thank you very much. Because I'm telling you, live streaming is not what it's cracked up to be in a lot of cases. And I, in general, have a very good upload of about 6 megabits per second. So upstreaming at about 4.5K should not be a problem. But every night's a different night. So anyway, I wanted to get back to what we were talking about. So I hope that all that other information actually came through. And if it didn't, I want to apologize in advance. But essentially what I was talking about was the first pro of going to photography school. And that would be a structured learning environment. Some people just really want that. They don't want to miss out on their education. They don't want to miss out on any of the potential knowledge that they can acquire. And a lot of times people just think that if they have an instructor, that the instructor is going to take them step by step through everything they're ever going to need to know, and they're not going to miss anything. So if that's something that you need, or if that's something that you require, I say go for it. You might want to go to photography school. Number 2, it's a much more social environment because you're actually with other people that are involved in the exact same thing that you are. You have quick and easy access to everyone that might want to be the same thing that you want to be. So you get to bounce ideas off of other people much, much faster than you would even with other people online. When you're all sitting around in a classroom and you're like, hey, I've got an idea. And then the other person next to you goes, oh, what a great idea. So, you get that immediate feedback, whether positive or negative. And so it will help shape you socially a lot faster, I think. I do want to draw a little bit of criticism to being a part of that overly social environment, being the fact that given the right amount of criticism, whether good or bad, could end up steering you in a direction that maybe you didn't necessarily want to go. I think a lot of people are shaped very often by other people's opinions, and I think it's really hard sometimes to stay on the path that you want to be on the way you want to be on it because of what other people might think or what other people might say or what other people might have to critique you on and how you did certain things. So for me, it's a double-edged sword. But if you happen to like that kind of environment, there are other alternatives. You could always do photography meetup groups and stuff like that, which don't cost you anything. You just put something up like on meetup.com or whatever, and you meet a bunch of other photographers, and you all go out, and each one of you all could take turns doing. Some of you could be models, some of you could be photographers. Then you could switch and help each other out and practice that way and bounce ideas off in that respect. So, social environment, if that's what you need, if you require that, with a good, strong, structured learning curriculum, then you might want to go to photography school. The last big pro that I can think of as far as going to photography school is you get a diploma. For some people, that is like paramount. You absolutely don't need a diploma, though. Let me just tell you right now, most of the places that you're ever going to get a job as a photographer, and I don't care if you're working at Sears Portrait Studio or a Kmart Portrait Studio, you don't really need it. Now, some bigger companies, I know like Amazon, on occasion requires you to have at least a bachelor's in arts to get a senior photography job with them, unless you have a body of work to show them that you can produce and show what you can do. If you don't have that body of work, if you don't have that portfolio to show them what you're capable of, you're going to find that you are going to have a much harder time. So if you're not going to go to school, I think that it's extremely important that you absolutely positively shoot your ass off. Build up a portfolio as fast as you possibly can. But you're going to want to be careful about what you put in portfolios. You have to a large extent, I think that you should not just put everything that you have in a portfolio. Only put the absolute cream of the crop in your portfolio. Most people, if they're hiring you because of your portfolio, they don't want to see the photos that you think are just kind of good enough. They don't want to see those at all. They want to see only the stuff that you just knocked out of the ballpark. So, if having a diploma and credentials is important to you, having that piece of paper, it could get you. I mean, it could. There's no guarantee, though. It could get you into school. It could very well get you into a job that you may have not otherwise got into because you don't have a portfolio. So if you want a diploma and you need the credentials, you want the prestige of graduating from a College of Arts program or something like that, then I say go to photography school. But I would be remiss if I did not talk about the cons of going to school. And this doesn't just apply to people in photography either. I mean, this to a lot of... There's only a few professions, in my opinion, that really require formal education anymore. I think that, in general, the internet is a school. It is a genuine school. I mean, anything you want to learn, anything you want to know, 2 seconds. Type it in, the information pops up. The problem usually comes in as far as the quality of education that you might potentially get from the internet. A lot of times you just can't guarantee that the the information that you're going to get from the internet is going to be worth having. So anyway, let's talk about the cons real quick. 9 times out of 10, when you go to photography school, it's more about photography and less about making money from photography. Most of the time, if you're going to a photography college, all they want to talk about is photography. Which for someone that's just getting into it, that's probably a good thing. You know, I think it's very important that you learn every single aspect that you possibly can about photography. Learn art history if you've got the extra time. It's not necessary to be a great photographer, though. Learn about all the awesome photographers of the past if you want to, if you've got the time. But that has nothing to do with your photography career. You might like some of the styles or some of the ways other photographers did their work or whatever, but it has absolutely nothing to do with you as a creative, as an artist, as a photographer. Because photography, no matter how technical it can be at times, it is an art form. And you absolutely, positively do not have to do it like anybody else. You don't. So, that's a con. If you're looking to get into business for yourself, you're probably going to spend more time talking about, you're going to dissect photos ad nauseum. You're going to talk about art history ad nauseum. You're going to talk and investigate old photographers that have been dead 50 years ad nauseum. Most of the stuff that you're going to learn, you're going to be very knowledgeable about art history and old photographers, but you're not going to learn much about how to run a photography business. That's just the thing. If that's what you're into, though, if you just want to go in for the education and that's it, then I say go for it. The second thing you're going to want to consider is that it takes up a lot of time to go to school. Especially if you're already an adult and you've got bills and job and you've got, rent to pay, and you've got other stuff you got to be doing. It takes up a lot of time. And that's time going to school that you could be outside gaining real experience, taking real photographs and learning out there in the field and not learning about some photographer that you never met, never heard of, probably don't even like their work, whatever. So at least that way, your time is more efficiently spent dictating to yourself rather than having a professor dictate, hey, let's learn about this, particular photographer here because I think he's awesome and I want you to learn all about him. So, just my opinion. So, again, take all of this with a grain of salt. The number 3 con is debt. Unbelievably crushing debt. If you go to a traditional 4-year photography art school, you're going to probably spend somewhere in the ballpark of roughly, I'm going to be conservative here, and I'm going to say $30,000 per year, roughly. And I know some photography schools that charge much, much, much more. So if you go to a traditional arts photography school, you're going to roughly spend anywhere from between $120,000 to $150,000 on that education. And that's not including your textbooks, your housing, a meal ticket, meal plan, accessories and all that stuff, everything that they're going to require you to go out and get for school. I mean, you're probably realistically over the long haul looking at more like $200,000 to $250,000 just to go to photography school. And then when you get out, you're still not guaranteed a job. But you have to get one as soon as you get out, because the student loan bills they're going to start rolling in pretty quickly. So you have to really take that into consideration. Because all I can say is that if you do not heed these words and you decide to go on to photography school, and that's fine. and you go and get that piece of paper right there, and you want that mortar's cap, then you're going to have to accept the responsibility of that crushing debt. Because that debt is going to dictate what you do until it is paid off. And God only knows how long that's going to take. So think about that long and hard before you sign on the dotted line. Because sometimes your photography is not going to pay the bills. So that means you might have to be a waitress. Or you might have to swing around the brass pole a few times. Or you might have to you might have to prostitute your body out to a construction company, guys. And you might have to do some hard manual labor to make enough money to both pay rent, buy the food, and pay off all those student loans. And like I said, even having that piece of paper, even after spending all that money, there is no guarantee that you're going to get a job in the photography field. You don't see many jobs posted for photographers. What you do find is a lot of people saying, hey, I'm having a wedding. Do you know of a really good photographer, that you could recommend, Susie, or whatever? That is how most people in the photography business get work. That is how most of the people in the photography business pay bills, is they do weddings, they do engagements, they shoot pictures of people's kids, they do family portraits. A few entrepreneurial photographers will take pet portraits. It's honestly, it's one of the toughest decisions that anyone that's on the cusp of getting out of high school and about to move on to a college education, we have had it ingrained in our heads for so long that piece of paper and that prestige is worth every last penny that we put into it, that we spend to get that piece of paper and that hat. We've been, in my opinion, we've been brainwashed into thinking that every red cent has been worth it. And sometimes, and I'm even going to go so far as to say more than half the times, it's not worth it. It is just quite simply not worth it. It might be for some people. And I do think that you, as an intelligent, independent thinking human being, you need to think long and hard before you make the leap. And it's on you. You are ultimately the one. Some people would go, if I go, or if I don't go, I could be passing up a really great opportunity. But what's the alternative? I can't make that decision for you. I don't think anyone else can make that decision for you. That is a decision that you personally, and don't just make it all willy-nilly either. Sit down, have a conversation with yourself, write out pros and cons, write out everything that you could potentially benefit, and then write down your assets, the assets in that decision, and then write out your deficits to that decision, and then compare. Because only you truly know you. I mean, going to school is not going to change the person you are. So if you're a lazy shit and you just want easy gigs on the weekend maybe and then smoke weed for the rest of the week, you've got to be honest with yourself and tell yourself, okay, realistically, I'm never fucking paying off $250,000, bro. I don't care how artistic you think you are. If you're not going to get up off your ass and pay the bill, don't create the debt. Seriously. But you have to be honest with yourself. And sometimes that's hard. I mean, having a conversation with yourself about how you are as a person and whether you're worthy of taking on that level of responsibility, whether you're responsible enough to take on that level of responsibility. That's a tough one to admit to yourself. Because sometimes we're not always going to like the answer. I'm just saying. So, overall, that's about the best advice that I can give anyone that's just about to transform their lives for better or for worse. I mean, if you just graduated high school this year and you're about to launch your college career, you know, it hasn't started yet. You've got time to change things around. You've got time to do some critical thinking, and maybe we really want, as human beings, we want to be successful. We do. We don't want to seem like failures. But the worst thing that you could do to yourself is to set yourself up for failure. And sometimes crushing unrepayable debt over 30 years or 40 years, God only knows how much in interest payments you would pay, would be a failure, in my opinion. Most people don't ever take a mortgage out that big. I'm just being honest. And they spend 30 years paying it off. Sure, there's loan assistance programs, there's grants, there's all kinds of stuff, but it ultimately comes down to you talking real to yourself. And if you are afraid to do that, or if you cannot do that, I would say you're better off not going to photography school. I'm saying you're better off not going to school, period. Learn what you can, work where you like to work, do what you like to do without incurring debt. That's the smart thing to do. But in life, there are no guarantees. So I don't care how long you spend at school, how much money you spend at school, and how prestigious that piece of paper is. At the end of the day, it does not guarantee you a gig. It just doesn't. So that's all I've got for you all tonight as far as the topic is concerned. I hope you guys enjoyed the show. I'm actually going to cut out here just a smidge early. And it's really not even early because I had a few problems with the stream. But I did want to go ahead and read a few of the comments before I left. And if we have any questions, I'd love to take them just real quick. So if you guys are down with that, let's get it on. Actually, let me swap on with Chia. Okay, so I'm going to read some of these comments, and I'm sure they're going to be hilarious because, okay. Okay, 646 Studio says, I have applied to your question, and I would say no. I still learn from other photographers that have been in the business, and they have not attended school of photography. And honestly, that's that's an honest decision. I mean, there are a lot of great photographers that are quite literally giving away genuine, real, good information for free all the time on the internet for $0. I mean, it's not structured for the most part. I mean, there are some resources that are releasing, I guess what you could consider non-accredited lessons in photography. But for the most part, yes. People that are on YouTube, we have to kind of go with the trends, what people are interested in at the time. We are a service-based provider, pretty much. So, supply and demand. When people demand certain topics, we supply the information to those topics. And I've tried very hard over the last 4 years to answer as many of the most basic questions regarding photography so that people at least had something that they go to. And as a matter of fact, I've got several videos on photography fundamentals on my channel for any of you that are wanting to get some of the basics or learn a little here or there. I've got some videos up. And, maybe it'll click for you. I don't know. But anyway, 646 Studio says, I learn from them and squeeze as much information as I can, and I take that information and apply it to my education, which is a great way to do it. As long as, some people are extremely good like that. I'm good like that. I don't usually do very well in classroom environments. And it's not because I don't like to learn. I love to learn. I actually love to learn more now than I ever did when I was in school. That's just a fact. I don't know why. Juan says, I agree with many of your comments, though. I don't think the formal schooling is as relevant today with so many resources available via technology. And Ralph says, very true. One of the things that helped me out the most was a shoot at Busch Stadium as a fan photographer. And that's pretty damn cool, too. So, yes, slavery equals, or debt equals slavery. And that is, I've said that for the longest time. Debt plus, I mean, death is about as real as it gets when it comes to slavery as it comes to the debt part. Debt equals slavery. It means you're pretty much dead to yourself. You have to do every last bit of your living to eat, to pay that bill back. And it sucks. You are dead to yourself. When you're a slave to your debts, you can't do anything except what you have to do in order to make that bill payment. But yeah, as far as doing schooling, it's not a bad thing. It's just not always the most financially sound thing to do. Ralph Johnson said, that is true, but photography is about networking. So school of some type may be good. And I agree. It's sometimes good to hook up with other people that have like-minded interests and stuff. But I also believe that you could easily do that with people that are online. And you get to pick who you get to network with. A lot of times when you go to school, you know, you may not like the people that you end up in class with. So at least when you have an online community and then maybe transform that online community into a real world community out there at your local town or city or whatever, you get to pick who you want to hang out with and who you want to network with, and you're not forced to do that because of the chosen class. So Ralph says, now that being said, I did not go to school for photography. I didn't either. I mean, I went for something completely unrelated. But I have to say that the education that I did kind of sort of get in college, it has helped me. Oh, you know, not much, granted. And the debt, in my opinion, was not worth it. And I do have some fond memories of being at school, but it was nothing, you know, earth-shattering, life-changing. It was not... it was not all the hype that I was led to believe it was going to be. Riley Bennett says, take a gap year to travel, explore after high school. Number one thing I wish that I did. And I got to be honest with you, Riley, I probably would have done the exact same thing if I wasn't under so much pressure to go to school. And back then, when I was getting ready to go to college, I wouldn't have been able to have gotten the loan, the school loan, and the grant if I had taken a year off. They only wanted me to get it or allow me to have it if I was planning to jump directly out of high school and go right into college. Pardon me. So that's what I got. So, folks, I appreciate everyone for sticking around and hanging out through all of my technical difficulties. I know that it's a total pain in the dick. I apologize, but I don't have control over the entire interwebs. So you're going to have to cut me a little bit of slack. But I hope, regardless, you all ended up liking the show. And as always, it's a live show. Things happen. And I can't wait to see you guys again next week. So knowing that it's a live show, I would love to see more of you all in the chat room, hanging out with us. We're doing it every Tuesday night now from 7 till roughly 8 or 8:30 or so. So thanks again, guys, for stopping here at PVS Live. I'm your host, Mark Puckett, and I'll see you guys again in the next one. Peace.